Well, here we are again, folks, with another Film Show Halloween special. But this is actually a continuation of last year's episode focusing on Italian filmmaker Mario Bava's work. Now, I know at the end of that episode I said part 2 would be coming soon, but I didn't think it would be a year. Sorry about that. But hey, let's get back into it. Get it on. Now that's how you open a picture. We meet Dr. Paul S. Vai, who's been summoned to make the difficult journey to the village of Carmingham. He is to perform an autopsy on a dead young maid named Irina Hollander. She's the one who shish kebabbed herself on the gate at the beginning of the film. He's directed to the local inn where we get that classic suspicious townsfolk who are just absolutely baffled at the sight of an outsider.
Has the inspector come? I was to meet him here.
The doctor is taken upstairs where he meets Inspector Kruger, who's investigating the girl's death and can't determine whether it was suicide or homicide. All of the superstitious locals refuse to speak to him about the case, and some try to bury Irina's body before an autopsy can be performed. It becomes clear that the entire town is gripped in fear over some strange curse that torments it, a curse that appears to have something to do with a ghostly young girl that haunts the residents, scaring them into silence. A young medical student named Monica Schuften is assigned to assist the doctor in Irina's autopsy. And I guess this was the most sanitary room they could find? Back at the inn, the doctor witnesses some sort of superstitious black magic ritual performed on the innkeeper's daughter Nadine, and he later questions the local hot witch named Ruth about her alternative medical practice.
You wouldn't understand the people here, Doctor. Everyone knows there's a curse over them.
But all of Ruth's silly hocus-pocus BS doesn't help Nadine in the slightest. She still believes that the curse is going to get her next. The doctor and her parents give her some sedatives and leave her alone to get some rest, and that's when she receives a little visitor. The young girl seems to have the ability to force her victims beyond their will to do themselves in. All roads to unraveling this spooky mystery seem to lead to the large villa of a reclusive Baroness Grapps. The Villa Grapps, as the locals refer to it in hushed tones.
Tell me, what's your name?
Melissa. My name is Melissa.
Meanwhile, the inspector turns up dead, Irina Hollander might still have some life left in her, and it's revealed that young Melissa is the Baroness's daughter who's been dead for 20 years, the victim of a tragic accident.
Everything is just as it was that day. Just look, it was 20 years ago.
And so a final showdown at Villa Grapps ensues, with further revelations about the Baroness, Ruth, and even Monica coming to light, while the building itself begins to play tricks on the poor doctor, a man of science who can't comprehend all of these supernatural occurrences surrounding him. But in the end, good does indeed triumph, the old bag is defeated, the curse has been vanquished, yada yada yada, and the sun rises again. Yay! The Whip and the Body. A nobleman named Kurt Menliff, played by Christopher Lee, has returned to his family's castle by the sea after some years of absence. And we learn very quickly that this guy's a bit of a dick. Nobody is happy to see him. Not his father, the Count, his brother Christian, his cousin Katya, and especially not the housemaid Georgia, who blames Kurt for the suicide of her daughter Tanya, with whom he had an affair and then abruptly abandoned. Just an all-around good fella. Kurt really gets around because we learn he also had an affair with his brother's wife Nevenka once upon a time before they were married. And I should also say that their relationship had a few interesting, kinks, if you will.
You haven't changed, I see.
Kurt returns to the castle at dusk holding Nevenka's riding crop, but Nevenka is nowhere to be seen. He claims ignorance of her whereabouts, and so Christian, Katya, and the butler Losat go out searching the property. Kurt retires to his chambers, but gets the sense that he's not alone. I never did trust these curtains. This is the same dagger that Tanya used to commit suicide. An unconscious Nevenka is found by Losat out on the beach, and Kurt's body is also discovered. A funeral is held, and a short time later, Nevenka believes that Kurt's ghost has returned to haunt the castle, and to rudely track mud everywhere. Wipe your boots, you big jerk. She pays a visit down to his tomb and finds the same muddy footprints there as well. But eventually she does succumb to his spirit because she can't resist his sweet, sweet whipping. But then the old Count turns up dead, killed in the same way as Kurt. So now on top of a kinky ghost story, we've got a good old murder mystery. Did Georgia kill Kurt to avenge her daughter's death? She is in possession of that dagger, so perhaps she killed the Count too. Or did Kurt rise from the grave and kill his father? Or did Christian kill Kurt in a fit of jealousy over his former affair with Nevenka? So I'm just going to come out and say it that The Whip in the Body is Mario Bava's most beautiful looking film. And that's really saying something. His filmography is filled to the brim with eye candy, but I think all the deep blues and greens and splashes of red and orange in this film are right at the top of the pile. If it were lit to look more realistic, this would have been a very dreary picture indeed. But all the shifting colors fading in and out of the shadows really keeps it vibrant and alive, a visual feast to go along with Carlo Rustichelli's mournful and haunting musical score. So in 1963, this film drew some heavy controversy over its sadomasochistic love affair at the center of it. It was edited all over the world, removing over 10 minutes in some cases, making the film totally incomprehensible. Audiences weren't going to movies for complex, psychologically twisted characters just yet. That's what the 1970s were for. Thankfully, its restored original version can be found very easily nowadays on physical media, where it's never looked better. A gorgeous entry into the gothic horror canon. In 1977, Mario Bava made what would end up being his final film, Shock. We meet a family moving into a house, Dora, her young son Marco, and her second husband Bruno. Dora does, however, have a somewhat dark and complicated history with this house. 7 years prior, she had lived here already with her former husband Carlo, and slowly we get little nuggets of their backstory revealed to us. First we learn Carlo disappeared one night while out boating. Carlo was also a heroin addict that may have done harm to Dora. After his disappearance, she suffered a nervous breakdown and spent months in a sanitarium where she also received electroshock therapy.
That period is a complete void inside of me. My mind seems to have cast it out, cancelled it completely. It's all vague. Only now, in that house, in my house, I'm starting to remember things.
But after moving back into the house, things start going south pretty quick. Young Marco immediately starts acting bizarre and getting a little too fresh with Ma. Is it possible he's being possessed by his dead father Carlo? Bruno is an airline pilot, and so he's away a lot of the time, leaving Dora and Marco to fend for themselves. And that's when the film turns into one of those lady loses her shit films. Is all this really happening? Is there some supernatural force at work here? Is it all in her mind? Is she batshit crazy? The answer is, yeah. Daria Nicolodi is a familiar face to fans of Italian horror from her work with her one-time husband, Dario Argento. Once things start going sideways, Daria cranks it up to 11 and gives a really terrific performance, probably her best and definitely most manic. Little by little, the house begins triggering long-suppressed memories in Dora's mind. Finally, she remembers killing Carlo during a drug session, slashing his throat with a box cutter. Bruno reveals that in order to save Dora from being caught for murdering Carlo, he stashed his body behind a wall in the basement.
I pushed Carlo's boat out to sea so it should look like he'd had an accident or committed suicide. Everyone knew he was depressed and an addict, and that, together with your shock and amnesia, made it easy. We only had to wait 7 years for him to be declared legally dead.
And that's the reason why they moved back into the house, so nobody else could find it. Now, I'm sure you've noticed the dramatic change in visual style of this film compared to the others that I've covered. It's a contemporary setting, and so therefore the lighting is much more grounded in reality. But that doesn't mean that the film is lacking in visual flair, it's just a different set of paints to play with. You still got those great Mario Bava shot compositions and camera work. This shot of Daria Nicolodi is one of the best of his entire career. It was achieved by strapping her down along with the camera and then rotated on a kind of rotisserie contraption, thus resulting in her hair flowing in an impossible and dreamlike way. Mario Bava passed away a few years after making this film, and I don't think there's any shame in this one being his last. Farewell, maestro. And with that, I'm off to go enjoy my Halloween. I'm gonna go head down to the lake and see if I can murder a bunch of drunk, horny teenagers. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. A toodaloo!